So I want to talk about my gig on Saturday. So this was a return gig. It's a thing that we did the year before, fundraiser for a charity. Specifically, it's a food pantry. And last time we did this, it was in a very cozy venue. It was like a wedding venue with about 100 people. This year, in a very different venue, was the Civic Center for the city of Brazelton, which was very nice, by the way. And it was over 300 guests at the event. And so we were stoked to get the invite. And we loaded in on Saturday, and we brought everything, like our full deal. But it turns out this venue had a full line array, and they were like, oh, well, you can just patch into our system. Cool. So, yeah, less load in. Still had to pull it back out of the car, but, that is what it is. So getting it set up, we just had a bunch of issues. A lot of technical problems. So the biggest ones were, I think, wireless related. So because we were patching things in a little bit differently, even the stuff in our in-ears wasn't quite what we're accustomed to. Gain staging issues with signal dropping out, issues with wireless microphones not connecting properly, unable to reach out to our lighting controller over Wi-Fi. Just our mixing app kept dropping. Like, there was just a lot of these little things that kind of just in the midst of it, you're just trying to, you go into survival mode. You turn your lizard brain on and you do the things you need to do to get through it. But it really just kind of brought up the general question of what do you do when a gig goes south? So when you're talking about this kind of scenario, there are certain kinds of issues that you're going to experience in any given situation. We've kind of broken it down into 4 categories. So you've got tech issues, which is primarily what we were dealing with. Gremlins. We've got gremlins in whatever it is that we're having issues with. We're gonna figure out where they are. You've got band issues. So you've got people. It's a people issue, and it's on stage.
Yeah, or a performance issue.
Yeah. So you've got somebody who is having, maybe they're ill and they're not able to operate at 100%, or they've had too many Chardonnays and may not be fully present, or they're sober but they're in a bad mood and they're kind of like just bumming people out with their general vibe.
Or you got people who are pissed at each other and they're looking dirt at each other over their instruments, or
the energy is palpable on stage that things aren't going smoothly.
Right. Beyond that, you've got client issues.
Mm-hmm. Maybe you had an agreement and then, people don't want to honor that, or you have a contract and they're not meeting their end of the bargain. Those are very unique, specific challenges that I'm sure everybody can relate to. And then the last one is like crowd issues. So either we've got a rowdy crowd that, maybe is having issues with boundaries.
Yeah, overwhelming, hard to deal with.
Yeah. Or they're not participatory.
Or they've chosen to be somewhere else tonight.
Or antagonistic. It's not that they left, they stayed and they wanted to make you pay for it.
It's funny, it's like that old saying, every happy family is identical, all unhappy families are unhappy in different ways. It's kind of like that. Every good crowds I've ever played to is pretty much the same, but there have been a lot of different kinds of bad crowds.
That's correct. Yeah, absolutely. So ultimately, tech issue, personnel, client, crowd, what do you do?
I'll tell you what you don't do.
Okay.
You don't give up.
Yes. Agreed.
You're there to do a job. You got to get through that job. You got to make it work no matter what. You got to be the one that wins over that crowd. You got to be the one that figures out that tech issue. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it's you, and you're the one on stage, and you're the one getting paid to be there to do that, and so earn your pay.
And it is one of those things where you have to start negotiating with yourself or with the product that you envision that you create. In our scenario, the things that we kind of like pride ourselves on is that there's an authenticity. We're trying our best to make it sound like it sounds on the record. And there's this high energy component that we really, feel like we do a good job of delivering. Well, if a wireless mic isn't working, you have to compromise that and go, okay, well, if the wireless mic isn't going to be the solution, then we're going to have to do hardwired mics. And there's going to be a list of compromises that have to happen in order for that to work. Or, your playback system isn't working. You're like, okay, well, now we're a band that does this without click tracks and backing or whatever. Right. And is that necessarily the best version of the thing that you're trying to put out in the world? No, but it is the product that you've got. Right. And it is ultimately the one that will complete the task, that's at hand.
Yep. And by the way, your job is not just to deliver it, but to sell it.
Right. It's not just yes, we got over the finish line. Like, it needs to come across as the fun, enjoyable, entertaining thing that you are there to provide.
I was at a show one time watching a kind of a jam-ish band here in Greensboro. There's a pretty strong jam band culture. Partly because there is a woman who teaches at UNC Greensboro who is an academic of the Grateful Dead culture and like writes about the Dead and has been doing it for a long, long time. And so quite a few like sort of jam and Dead and Fish and folks kind of coalesced around her. She teaches, so people come to town for this sort of thing and stick around being jam. So I was watching this band that was very jammy and it felt good groove. Guy's deep in a solo and deep in it, and like I can tell suddenly he's not happy. He's not happy. It still sounds good. I'm still enjoying it. I'm noticing he's gotten a little out of tune, maybe, but he's upset. Something's wrong now. It's wrong, and it's bad, and he's fiddling with his tuners in the middle of a solo and trying to. And he turns around, like gives the whole band like a cut it, stop it, and he goes to the mic, and says, "Sorry guys, my guitar got screwed up. Sorry," and the whole room was just stunned that he stopped, like stunned. That it telegraphed such deep rookiness.
Yeah.
That he had not given any hint of before that. It sounded great. Like we were all super into it. And then like this, like, oh, I can't go on, got screwed up. I'm gonna go cry online about this later. Don't be that guy.
Yeah.
Even if it's not what you want it to be sounding like, sell what you're putting out.
Yeah. So whatever, like, a lot of us know what it feels like to scream on the inside. And that's where it needs to stay.
Yeah.
But most of the time, like when I'm in the middle of it, when things are going sideways, like I can't react to it. I'm too busy, like trying to keep my side of the street clean. Like that's where I kind of like disconnect from everything. It's like, I only have control over like this 18-inch radius around me. And that's the thing I need to focus on.
I think I'll say this to you also, my friend. You on one hand, you're a performer.
Yep.
Right? On the other, you're not the strongest poker face I've ever seen.
That's what the sunglasses are for.
Yeah, okay, good. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I do wear it. But I think in most cases, if I'm stressed out, I just look like I'm concentrating on things. I don't necessarily I'm not sneering at anybody, when if things aren't working a particular way. Right. It's just, I draw inward.
Well, and because we're there as the band leaders and this is my rig and all of my equipment, like any failure of it feels very personal, right? And the band looks at me when anything goes wrong, like, Dan.
Yeah.
Rightfully so. I'm the one who plugged everything in, if there was a mistake in doing that, it was my mistake, right? There's a moment of shock and horror and personal failing experience to overcome sometimes before you can get practical.
Yeah, I feel like I definitely have the thing I experience is that there's a threshold of being able to troubleshoot somebody else's issue. And I'm able and willing to do it up to a certain point. But when it starts to kind of like eat away at the bandwidth of the stuff that I have to be able to like deliver on is when I start flipping out. Up to that point, if the Wi-Fi isn't doing what it's supposed to, I'm pretty good about that, and patching things in, I'm pretty good about that. But at some point, it is okay, if this isn't working for you, like I need to like I've got to figure my issues out. I've got to put the mask on me before I can, I can focus outward.
Boundaries are a thing.
Yeah.
And nobody's going to maintain them for you.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
So the first thing, is to realize that the show must go on. And there's a demeanor part of this where if you have to stay as calm as you can, and you have to kind of turn on that analytical side of your brain, whether it's troubleshooting a technical issue or just looking at what's the next right decision to make. If it's related to somebody on stage or what the client is experiencing or what have you. Some things are important to address in the moment, and there's other things that you need to kind of pick and choose that you want to get into. Some things are worth discussing in the moment to fix them. Other things can wait. And the ultimate skill there is the discernment of knowing which one is which.
Yeah.
An example of like an immediate thing. Okay, the cue and click track is coming through front of house. That's an immediate problem that needs to be solved. Nothing can move forward until it's fixed. Yep. Even if that fix is, okay, we're bailing on using clicks and tracks for tonight.
Have you ever had that problem that wasn't solvable?
If I was the only person there to solve the problem, then yes, I have been in that scenario. I've been in similar situations where the person that was operating the front of house didn't necessarily have all of the information they needed. Mm-hmm. And so things that were causing issues were kind of unintentional.
Yes.
We had a situation where we could hear playback coming through the click and cue track. And it turns out that my monitor mix was being used as an auxiliary for like one of the reverb channels. And that was the problem.
Neat.
I've had situations like that. We've had issues where, especially with the wing, because the channel number and the local input number aren't necessarily the same. And so you don't necessarily know where something is being routed to from the front end on the back end, and trying to like figure that part out. We've had issues with like USB playback a couple of times. Yeah, there's definitely been certain scenarios that we've had to bail on tracks or figured something else out.
And I guess it's about what duration of mystery you're willing to invest in solving before you pull the ripcord and decide you're going to go another way, right?
Yeah.
You could try to diagnose all those Wi-Fi problems, or you could just find a mic that has a cable.
Yep. And I mean, that's ultimately what we ended up having to do, is that Amber's phone or iPad would connect to the console. And so the solution was, well, I'm logged in, here's your mix, and you can just mix off of mine.
Yep.
And then mine dropped off and hers worked. Like, it was like, again, very bizarre. But it was a scenario where she was like a couple of songs in, and I could tell, because she was a little behind the beat, I could tell she couldn't necessarily hear what she needed to. Mm-hmm. She wasn't willing to stop the show. And so, in between songs, we kind of came up with a solution. I'm like, here, let's switch sides. You listen and adjust and do what you need to do, and I'll take over in the meantime. Those are things that it's a little bit of both, where you're like, okay, I need to stick to what I came here to do, but I'm also going to spend that time kind of trying to creatively problem solve as I go.
Right.
Whereas like, if somebody in the band says something or does something and it kind of rubs you the wrong way, it's probably better to like not address that in the moment.
Yeah. We've moved to band issues now?
Well, I think so. I think technically we hit all the tech type deals.
It's worth saying a diagnostic approach needs to start by simplifying. Right? If you're trying to figure out what's going on, you got to
isolate.
Yeah, isolate, remove variables.
Yep.
If that means, if your pedal board's somewhere in the middle of it, it's not passing signal.
Yep.
Which, get yourself a patch cable straight from your guitar to the last pedal and see if that is the one or the one before, see if that's the one or the one before, and see if that's the one. That's how you do that.
Yeah, well, step one is, if it's not working, is to plug the guitar directly into the output. whether
Right.
it's an
Could
amp
be your
or,
guitar. That's right. That's right.
And if that works, then you start moving your way up the signal chain until you get to where it is you're going to.
Could be the input on the mixer.
Could be, lots of...
If you're playing through a cab, it could be the mic, right? But yeah, start with the smallest circuit you can that you think should make noise and work your way back.
Yeah. If you can approach things that way and get around it. I mean, this also boils down to time. Like, you need to make sure that you've got suitable time. Like, we had 3 hours and we plowed through a bunch of issues, but like, even still, when it was game time, was game time, and just
there
was
stuff that shows
else
up at downbeat, like no amount of prep work's going to prep for that.
Yeah, unfortunately.
All right, people issues. Here's the thing: the secret to people issues when you're on stage and delivering is compartmentalization.
Yep.
So somebody does something that pisses you off. No, it didn't. Period.
Yeah.
Until later, you can address it. But right then, you are a duck. It is water. It rolls off your back.
Yeah.
Same with if somebody's performance is off. Don't forget it. But as the band leader, you want to be able to record notes in your head to deliver after the show. Don't give them bad looks. Don't make it obvious that they're effing up. Roll with it.
Yeah.
Roll with it. If you need to fire them in the morning, fire them in the morning.
Yeah.
I've done it.
Or, just multi-track everything and then send them a mix and like, hey, do you think this was your best night?
Yeah. Is this what you intended to play?
Yeah. So.
That's a little passive aggressive.
Yeah.
Better that than aggressive. Maybe.
Right. Well, if you post the recording and then they come to that conclusion on their own, like, that's ultimately what should happen.
And if they don't or don't listen to it, that tells you whether you're going to keep them.
Yeah. From a people perspective, like, you have to be willing to have the conversations you need to have, or to let things go and legitimately let them go. Because conflict avoided is what is the phrase?
I can make something up. I think I know where you're headed.
I think it's like conflict avoided is conflict delayed
deferred.
or deferred. Yeah. You're basically like, you're not doing anything other than just like putting it in a pile for it to like overflow at some point.
You're kicking the can on a problem that's going to rear its head at some point.
Yeah.
So maybe don't do that.
And some things that could potentially be read initially as like personal can be reframed. Let's say you had a particular like, hey, we don't do X, Y, and Z when we're doing private parties or whatever. And it gets one person or maybe two people kind of go past whatever that threshold is. You can just reiterate that initial policy and not call them out specifically. And also include yourself. Because, like, here's the thing. In a scenario where somebody had an off night, I've been that person. Somebody who's in a bad mood, I've been that person. Somebody had a couple of drinks too many, I've been that person.
Yep.
Somebody didn't operate to their fullest ability because they didn't feel well. I've been that person. So you have to look at any of these particular scenarios with a level of humility, because I ultimately want to do the best that I can do in any scenario. And if you have a perspective or can see a blind spot that I can't, whether I like it or not, I need to hear that. I need that information.
Right.
So I do my best to be receptive to those kinds of things. And groups that are growth-minded, that have lasting power in whatever it is that they're doing, like, you have to have that kind of mentality.
Yeah, and I think knowing that it could, there, but by the grace of God go I, right, gives you the ability to have some compassion with somebody having an off night. The bassist who just quit my band, I say just, it was months ago, but in terms of band movement since then, his last gig was not, he didn't play well. He did not play well. And I was gonna, confront him about it gently, but point it out.
Yeah.
Because he's a strong player, but it was like clearly an off night for him. And then the kind of next day he said, look, I've got this health issue. It's affecting my hands and I can't play like I want to play. And so you should replace me. God, I was all ready to not put him on blast, but, check in,
give him some tough love potentially. Yeah.
It was like he was way off of how I know him to play.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to see what was up mostly. Well, he told me what was up, and I had nothing but love for the guy and respect for his standards, So people go through stuff, and sometimes it comes out in their performance in weird ways, and that's part of what's great about performance is you kind of can't escape that. And when things are going, it's also a great way to compartmentalize again away things that aren't working and have like a delicious moment that's pristine and true to itself. And when that doesn't happen, sometimes it's messy.
Yeah.
So, people who are chronically underperforming, that's the thing to deal with. People who have a one-off bad night, like they didn't intend that. They didn't want that.
Yeah.
They know better.
Sure.
So.
Yeah. I mean, I've been all of these people in different scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
I've been on every side of the situation. And being able to empathize with the situation while also maintaining your standards is the magic trick, I think. And that is the thing that makes you a good leader is being able to, do both of those things eloquently and with grace. And, we're all aspiring to that, I think, ultimately.
Listen, the best boss I ever had unbelievably high standards for her people, like expectations through the roof. And when there was no chance you were not going to grow to meet them. Mm-hmm. And it was terrifying and brutal, but amazing. And I grew so much and I accomplished so much more than I ever thought. And I kind of always aspire to be like that, in my band leading, in my work.
So what about like client issues though? So if something goes south between you and a client, what do you do in that scenario?
I've never had that while the show was going on.
Okay.
I've certainly had it before. I've certainly had it after.
Mm-hmm.
Things like where the negotiation or talk about what the show's going to be or the whatever, something got twisted or personal or something in that. I've had people who didn't like what we did and I found out about it after the fact, or didn't like what we charged and I found out about it after the fact. Didn't think we were worth it. I've had people who didn't pay and I had to chase them after the fact. But I don't think an issue with the venue or the client or the booker has ever been a matter for me while I'm actually performing.
Yeah. I've definitely had like scenarios where like something's in writing and you have to kind of like toe the line on that. And
you got to defend the contract.
Right. And there's an art to that as well, where you do kind of pick and choose your battles.
Mm-hmm.
But I've definitely been in situations where I wasn't in charge, but like there was it was a wedding deal with another band, and they literally pulled the paper out, like showing the coordinator and stuff, like this is what we agreed to. And it's scary because everybody's kind of doing this kind of work on spec, really, and there's a lot of implied kind of social contracts that we put in place for these kinds of things. So when it is time to actually like pull the paper out and be like, this is what we all agreed to, is tough. But in certain circumstances, it is the thing that needs to happen.
Sure. And it wouldn't be in the contract if it didn't impact the show.
Right.
Bottom line. So it's in their interest to comply.
Yeah. Ultimately, in any scenario where things haven't gone smoothly or the way and I also note that like it's very rare that the issues that we perceive to be present and happening are felt or noticed by the clients.
That's right.
If you do your job right, they never know about these things.
Correct.
It's a little bit different when they are aware of it, because then the rules kind of change, because we always aiming to give them a good product, but if what they perceive we've delivered is not up to standard, that's a totally different conversation.
Right.
And what it is you are willing to take on or able to acknowledge or whatever. I've never been in a scenario where somebody like said, we want our money back or anything like that.
Yeah. No.
But I've been told like, hey, we can't afford that, or what you charge is outrageous or whatever. And all I have to push back on that is the decade we've been making that kind of money with other clients.
And the full calendar you've got. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. And a lot of times a client issue is going to be maybe like a misunderstanding, a communication situation is typically what you're going to run into.
Right.
And that's just a situation of approaching with genuine curiosity and a willingness to understand, to kind of figure out where the conflict lies, and then what locus of control you have over that, whether it's, literal or perceived.
Right.
You have to be able to go into those with the confidence that what it is that you're doing is good and valid and worth defending, in tandem with a willingness to try and find solutions to whatever the issue might be with the client, like being in the customer service,
Right.
headspace.
Right.
And that's tough. I don't have a bulletproof answer with that on how you handle it.
Well, every situation is going to be different. You're going to have to be socially adept and, emotionally intelligent and all the stuff that we love doing.
What's all of that about?
Right.
And then lastly, crowd issues. I mean, if the crowd is rowdy, you try and handle them. If somebody crosses a line, you do something about it. I've had to call people out for being like rude to people in the crowd, like, hey, leave her alone type stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
That kind of deal. And I feel like everybody's been in a scenario where you're unfortunately the soundtrack to some other drama going on in other people's lives. I keep seeing these things on TikTok where like somebody busts their spouse for cheating, or like there was like somebody assaulted somebody, and in all of these videos is they're at some like beach resort and there's a cover band in the background,
poor band,
just going like,
poor band, with their logos on the wall, like, oh my god, now I'm part of this.
Yeah.
And I'm not even Coldplay. If I was Coldplay, that'd be a totally different story.
Yeah. Yeah, you're just, Captain Geach in the Shrimp Shack Shooters or whatever.
Totally. Yeah.
And you end up in some sort of, melee. Ultimately, it's the same kind of deal. Like, you want to stand up for yourself and make sure that like you're not being disrespected or what have you, while also trying to be as good of a host as you can be, even when people are not being good guests in this, metaphor.
Yeah. Conversely, there's a good gig postmortem posted in the Patreon Slack recently by Mark Budwitt. This was from this morning.
Yeah.
I'll just read this. I played the most brutal gig of my entire career last night. Played a large venue that usually has a pretty good built-in crowd. Granted, we're not a large drawing act. We can usually bring in a handful of people. And this place is known for good food and large dinner crowds, huge outdoor patio, and decent inside area. Got there at 6 p.m. for load-in. Entire building inside and out had 10 customers. On a Friday, that was alarming. We set up outside for an 8 p.m. start. These times are way outside our normal performance times. Our crowd is old, and old turns into pumpkins by 10 p.m., so the fact that we were playing 8 to 11:30 didn't help us at all. We started at 8 p.m. to a roaring crowd of 7 people. At set break, we were down to 5. 3 of them were friends and family. I asked the bartender if they had remembered to put the open sign on to unlock the front door. She agreed that it was bizarre what was happening. The last set from 10 to 11:30, we played to 2 people. Our keyboard player's son and our bass player's son. Oh, and 1 bartender and our sound guy. That was it. I'm no stranger to playing to a dead room, he says, but this one set the all-time record. Cannot for the life of us figure out what was going on. Manager told us this whole week has been super dead, and the prior night was the same deal. I was beside myself. I thought about asking them to cut us early and we'd negotiate pay, but they never asked us to stop. We just played to no one, and they paid us at the end, and that's the story of my paid practice. Here's the thing. That is how to do that.
Yeah.
When there's no one there, it is a paid practice. You do it with the energy you would give a crowded room. That's hard, but it's hard on purpose. It's hard because practice is hard.
Yep.
This is you and your band having a stage to practice on, which never happens. You're usually crammed into a little basement. So enjoy it. It sucks. Enjoy it. It sucks. Enjoy it.
Yeah.
That's my advice.
Yeah. Find ways to extract whatever joy you can out of those. And if it means like throwing yourself a bunch of curveballs, like at soundcheck at this last gig, we played probably 5 songs we never played before, just to like break them out, just to see how how they went. And we try to take those opportunities when we get them. I feel like we probably have one or two every single year where it's just like, okay, the check's going to clear. Nobody's going to pay attention to this. What do you want to do? And you find whatever way to extract the joy out of it as you can.
Well, and I've said a bunch of times, stage time is way more valuable at tightening a band than rehearsal room time.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing like it. It's many multiples more potent in terms of getting a band to gel. And I have found that that's true even when there's no one in the audience. You're still on a stage. And if you use it like performance time and not dink around time, then it has that kind of potency in terms of the band gelling, the band tightening. So do that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like in moments where like we were playing to like maybe an unenthusiastic or light crowd, and you lock in on the things that your band is doing, those have been opportunities for like little moments to kind of pop out, because you're not feeling the pressure, and maybe you're feeling kind of goofy about the whole thing, and maybe something happens, and then it just kind of somebody else latches onto it, and it becomes like this thing that you do all the time. I feel like there's a lot of the little choreography, little moves that happened in those kinds of scenarios where it was just like stakes are low, your
little hunger like a wolf kicks.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
That was like a fluke moment that ended up becoming like routine, at this point. So there's opportunity for like legitimate growth and like cool things to come out of those situations.
Plus, I've played nights where it started like that and then really surprised me.
Sure.
So if the crowd walks in and sees you up there not giving it, they're not going to stick around, or they're not going to care. But if they walk in like there's a party happening, even though like, wait, am I the first one at the party? Okay, like that's a whole different vibe. So don't back down from that. Go ahead and give it all your energy. Have it be great. Have it be great.
So I think the takeaway here is don't panic. Do take it seriously. Don't let it show. I think that's any one of those situations. I think can be wrapped up in those three options.
Yep. Budwit mentions later in the thread that they the last hour of the show, the bass player's son requested they play some Spinal Tap, so they played Big Bottom.
Nice. Why not?
Great choice. Why not?
Why not? So, what do you guys think? Is there anything that we missed? Is there a particular scenario that requires a very specific set of actions that you can provide us? Let us know. Coverbandconfidential@gmail.com. Leave a comment on the YouTube version of this video. I think this is one of those kind of universal things. Everybody is going to run into a scenario like this at some point. A couple of weeks ago, we have the VIP thing. That's a scenario that a large swath of the population will never have to worry about. This is universal.
Oh yeah.
So hopefully the information provided here is helpful to you, and that you don't experience these things and you only have to hear about them from our sad sacks.
And our pros who've been around, like, you can commiserate. You know exactly what we're talking about. You've been there a million times.
Yes. And will be. Outside of all of this stuff, the thing that I have to do now is spend time outside of what we normally do to chase gremlins down. What can I do to minimize the possibility of the router disconnecting from the console, and what can I do to lower the noise floor of the system? So that's the kind of stuff that I'm going to be doing in the meantime, while we figure out all the other stuff. And then, hopefully the gig that we do in 2 weeks is, smooth.
Pristine.
Ultimately, that's what we're after.
Yeah.